So, you want to learn how to knit. Well, you're in the right place. In this video, we will show you the 4 basic techniques you will need to know. Casting on, the knit stitch, fixing a drop stitch, and casting off. You can use a variety of yarns and different kinds of needles depending on your project. Let's begin. When you start to knit, the first row of stitches on your needles is called casting on. This will determine how wide your knitting piece will be. Here is an easy way to get started. Wind the yarn around your finger and pull a loop through it. You've just made a slip knot. Let's see that again. Wind the yarn around your finger and pull a loop through. Slip the loop onto the blue needle. Tighten it to make a stitch. Be sure the stitch is not too tight. Make an L shape with your left index finger and thumb. Pull the yarn over your index finger. Bring the needle over to the left side. The yarn makes a P shape around the index finger. Poke the needle through the loop around your finger and pull it through. You've just made a stitch. Let's see that again. Pull the yarn over your finger, bring the needle over to the left side, poke the needle through, pull the stitch off, poke, pull, off. Poke, pull, off. Poke, pull, off. Continue casting on stitches the same way until you have enough width for your project. Practice casting on until you feel comfortable. The knit stitch is the main stitch used for creating knitted pieces. Put the cast on needle into your left hand. Make sure the yarn is behind the needle. Pick up the empty red needle with your right hand. Slip the right needle up into the first stitch. Wrap the yarn around the right needle. Poke the point of the needle out of the stitch. Make sure the new stitch is on your needle. Push the needle forward to slide the old stitch off. Be sure you are knitting with the yarn that is attached to the ball, not the tail. You won't get very far with the tail. Let's see that again. Go in, wrap around, poke out, slip off. In, around, out, and off. In, around, out, off. In, around, out, and off. You've just made your first row. You can count your stitches at the end of the row to make sure you haven't dropped a stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Perfect! To start a new row, switch your needles. Hold the empty needle with your right hand and knit all over again. Work close to the tip of your needles. This way your yarn won't have to stretch so much. This will also allow you to work quickly. Use your thumbs and fingers to guide your stitches to where they need to be. It is very common for beginners to knit too tight. Be sure to keep your stitches nice and loose. This will make your knitting piece look better because it won't be all bunched up. It will also make knitting more comfortable. If you want to make a stripe, you will need to change colors. It's easy. Just cut off your yarn with a 12-inch tail. Lay the new color on top of the old color and knit them together as usual. Count your stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One missing. Don't worry, you can fix it. This is what a drop stitch looks like. Pick up the drop stitch with your fingers. Pull the loop on top of the drop stitch through. Now slip the stitches in front of your drop stitch onto your other needle. Place the drop stitch back on the left needle where it belongs. Now put the stitches from your other needle back on the right one. Voila! Fixed! When you've reached the end of your knitting, it's time to cast off. Knit the first 2 stitches in the row. Keep the yarn behind your knitting. Put the left needle into the bottom stitch. Lift the bottom stitch up and over the top stitch. Drop it off the needle, like this. Now only 1 stitch remains on the needle. Knit another stitch, so there are 2. Lift the bottom stitch up and over the top and off. Let's see it again. Up, over, off. Keep your stitches nice and loose so your edge is nice and stretchy and not too tight. When you reach the last stitch on the row, loosen the stitch by pulling up the needle so it is nice and big. Cut off the yarn with about 12 inches to spare. Slip the end of the yarn through the stitch and pull it to tighten the loop. Weave the tail in and out of your knitting with your fingers. This will hide the tail. Now your project is complete. Scarves, hats, and other knitting projects are easy with these 4 basic techniques. Remember, practice makes perfect. With time, you'll be knitting on Easy Street. Now that you feel comfortable knitting, it's time to dress up your projects with pom-poms and tassels. To make a tassel, wrap yarn around your hand until you have a nice, thick bundle. Slip the bundle off your hand and tie it around the middle with a long tail. Now cut the bottom loops. Trim the ends so they are even. Thread a piece of yarn through the top loops and tie your new tassel onto your project. Making a pom-pom is almost the same as making a tassel. Wrap yarn around your hand the same as before. Slip the bunch off your hand and tie it around the middle with a long piece of yarn. Cut all the loops open with scissors. Be sure you don't cut your long tails. Now trim the pom-pom into a round ball. Use the long ends to tie the pom-pom onto your knitting project. Fabulous!